For what purpose does the gentleman from Arizona rise?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk designated as number 4 of Part B.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 4, printed in Part B of House Report number 111-219, offered by Mr. Flake of Arizona.
Pursuant to House Resolution 669, the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Flake, and a member opposed each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Arizona.
I thank the chair. This amendment would prohibit $250,000 in funding for the Murphy Theater Community Center, Incorporated, for building renovation, and it would reduce the cost of the bill by a commensurate amount. According to the sponsor's website, quote, funding would go toward the complete renovation of the Murphy Theater. The theater is a focal point of downtown Wilmington, Ohio. It's 90 years old and has been in constant use since it opened. It's now in need of major rehabilitation. According to the Murphy Theater website, the theater was built by the shrewd Chicago Cubs owner Charles Webb Murphy in 1918, and when he built the Murphy, he owned his downtown, or his hometown, it says. Mr. Murphy has his name painted on the theater's rear large wall, enough to be seen from the railroad tracks. And when the town druggists questioned the financial viability of the theater, Mr. Murphy was quoted as saying, "Dan, it's not an investment, that's a monument." Now, this sounds like a great theater. I think many districts across this country, many towns have something similar. The question here is, should federal monies, should federal taxpayer monies, should the taxpayers in the state of Washington or Wisconsin or Arizona or Alaska or elsewhere be sending their hard-earned tax dollars to Washington to be earmarked to renovate a theater in Ohio? And with that, I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves his time. For what purpose does the gentleman from Ohio stand?
Mr. Chairman, I rise to seek time in opposition.
Gentleman is recognized.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to yield to the sponsor of this particular provision in the law to answer the gentleman from Arizona's question, my good friend and colleague from Dayton, Ohio, Mike Turner.
How much time is yielded?
I'm just going to yield until he's done talking.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. LaTourette. I appreciate you yielding time to me. Mr. Speaker, Wilmington, Ohio is in my congressional district, and it has seen a number of challenges over recent years. Of course, we're all across the country experiencing the economic downturn, but specifically in Wilmington, Ohio, they are experiencing the closure of DHL's North American hub, which was located there. The closure of DHL's operations will result in the loss of approximately 8,000 jobs, mainly in Clinton and Highland counties in my district. As a result, the Ohio delegation has sought increased federal assistance to help the community as they recover from this economic emergency. The Ohio delegation has been successful in acquiring federal dollars to help retrain former DHL employees and also help to create an economic development plan to move the community forward with possession of the Wilmington Air Park. Additionally, I have sought congressional earmark funding for Wilmington projects, which are needed especially given their special economic circumstances. The 91-year-old Murphy Theater in Wilmington, Ohio is both a local landmark and a community center that still hosts a wide range of events. The Murphy Theater, which opened in 1918, was placed on the National Register in 1982. And the Murphy Theater soon became the actual as well as the symbolic heart of the downtown. The Murphy even hosted a John Philip Sousa concert. Today, the Murphy Theater hosts an average of 35 events a year, serving approximately 6,000 adults and 4,000 children. Funding for this project will provide critical infrastructure assistance to ensure the viability of this local landmark. In addition to air conditioning and heating replacement, the Murphy Theater needs roof repair, new auditorium seating, and interior plasterwork repairs from damage sustained by a leaky roof. Wilmington hasn't the funds to perform even basic repairs to stabilize the condition of this American landmark. This funding request is vital to protect a historic treasure and also ensure that it continues to meet strong local demand as a community center for entertainment and town activities. Without objection, Mr. Speaker, I would like to submit for the record copies of letters in support of the project from David Risk, the mayor of Wilmington, Randy Riley, a Clinton County commissioner, and Donnie Mungold, the president of the Murphy Board of Trustees.
Statements are covered under general leave.
Mr. Speaker, this amendment by Mr. Flake will not save one federal dime. Only this community will lose increased and important funding to support a local landmark while they recover from the loss of over 8,000 jobs. And with that, I reserve the balance of our time.
The gentleman reserves his time. The gentleman from Arizona. Gentleman from Ohio reserves. Gentleman from Arizona.
I thank the chair, and I thank the gentleman for that explanation. It sounds like a wonderful theater. Like I mentioned, I think we all have them in our districts. My own hometown of Mesa, a few years ago, decided to construct a theater, and it was a hard-fought process to get the local residents to tax themselves to build this particular theater. That's as it should be. If the community feels that it needs a theater and needs to renovate a theater, I think it falls on the local residents to decide, because they're the ones, frankly, that benefit from that. But we can't have a policy at the federal level where we renovate every theater across the country, particularly where we're running a deficit that could hit $2 trillion this year. How many theaters out there in need of repair? How many districts are experiencing high unemployment? I can tell you mine is. All of them out there are. And at some point, I think we have to decide that perhaps we can't fully fund this account, which is for economic development initiatives. Now, I won't make the case at all that this theater doesn't fall within the purview of this program. There is nothing that could possibly not fall under the purview of economic development initiatives. Whenever you spend money anywhere, there's some economic benefit, if only fleeting. And so it fits well within the program, but I think it behooves us now to say, you know, maybe we ought to forego that. Maybe we ought to decide we ought to change the 301Bs and 302As and all the numbers, and so we do save money on this. And so we do actually spend less this year than we did last year, perhaps, because we're spending it elsewhere. We cannot continue to spend money as we're spending money, and I would submit this is a good place to start, to say let's not fund some of these renovations of theaters under the guise of economic development that clearly anything could fall under, and virtually every district around the country could claim that they need. But we just can't decide here in Congress that we're going to fund that one, we're going to fund that one, but we're not going to fund that one. It simply doesn't make sense to do it that way. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Ohio.
Can I ask how much time we have?
2.5 minutes.
I thank the chair. And let me just say that the gentleman from Arizona, his amendment in this case is misguided, and it's, in my mind, exercises a judgment that I hope not many people in this House agree with. Mr. Turner has stated the case. You know, this business about the local residents taxing themselves to build a theater. The local residents of Wilmington, Ohio don't have jobs anymore. DHL pulled out in a town of, I think, 15,000, Mike. 8,000 of them lost their jobs. What are they supposed to tax? And also, if we are supposed to be elected, each of us represent about 700,000 people, well, then what are we doing here? I mean, why don't we just hand off the entire federal budget and all the decisions to the President of the United States and his functionaries? Why do we have a legislative branch? We have a legislative branch because we do have the power of the purse. And we are local representatives closest to the people that get put on the ballot every 2 years, the shortest term in the United States Constitution, so people can keep an eye on us, and if they don't like us, throw us out. Well, Mike Turner is supposed to stand up for the people in Wilmington. And the biggest need that he's found in Wilmington that fits within this bill is to renovate this theater, which he has described as the heart and the soul of Wilmington, Ohio, which has had its guts ripped out by this economy. High school graduations take place in this theater. It is a meeting place, the center of town. And if the duly elected representative to the United States House of Representatives from that area says that this is a need in this district, then by God he should do it, and the Constitution authorizes it, I urge the defeat of the amendment.